Begin with a slip knot and make a chain in multiples of 5. Now this chain will go from the side of the chest towards the other side. The longer your chain, the wider your panel will be. When you have your chain, add an extra 4 chains. Double crochet in the 6th chain from the hook. And to do a double crochet, you're going to yarn over. Insert the hook in the 6th chain. Grab the yarn and pull up a loop. We have 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops. And yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops on the hook. Now make another double crochet in that same chain. Next, chain 1 and make another 2 double crochet in that same chain. We now have 5 stitches in the same chain, and together all of these 5 stitches is called an iris stitch. Next, we will skip 4 chains, and then we're going to make an iris stitch in the next chain. Again, to make an iris stitch, we're going to work 2 double crochet. Chain 1 and another 2 double crochet, all in that same chain. So this will be the pattern that you will repeat all throughout the first round or first row. So skip 4 chains and iris stitch in the next chain. Do that until you get to the end. At the end, we will skip the next 2 chains and double crochet in the last chain. That ends row number 1. Moving on to row number 2, we're going to chain 3 and turn your work. Chain 3 here will count as 1 double crochet. Now for row number 2, we're going to work an iris stitch in each of those chain 1 spaces that we did from the previous row. So make an iris stitch in the chain 1 space of the iris stitch from the previous row. End of row number 2, we're going to work our last stitch in the 3rd chain of the beginning chain 3. Now that ends row number 2. From here, we're going to repeat row number 2, and we're going to do that until the length of our panel will reach all the way up to the underarm or the armpit. Feel free to extend the length of the panel as you like. For my size, that will be 23 rows. Here I have my panel. Now from here, we're going to work the sleeves of our top. Now, one thing to make sure is to end your last stitch in the right side of your work so that we can continue working the chains for this part. Now to make the chain, we're going to work in multiples of 5. So for my size, that will be 56 chains, and this chain will go just below the elbows, and for my size, that will be 12.5 inches or 56 chains. Once you have your chain, we're going to add an extra chain to that and then we're going to fasten off and cut the yarn. Next, we're going to attach the yarn in the opposite side of our panel and make the same number of chain as we did with the other side. Now on the other side, we added an extra 1 chain. On this side, we're going to add an extra 3 chains. Next, we're going to work an iris stitch in the 6th chain from the hook. So if you can remember earlier, the pattern will be the same as we did in the panel. So repeat this until you reach the end of the chain. At the end, we will skip the remaining 2 chains and double crochet into the double crochet stitch from the previous row. Like so. Next, continue with an iris stitch into each of the chain 1 space from the previous row. Repeat this until you reach the end of the panel. At the end of the panel, we will work our last stitch in the 3rd chain of the turning chain 3, and the last stitch will be a double crochet. So it's exactly the same as we did here at the opposite side. So next, skip 2 chains and iris stitch in the next. Repeat the same sequence as the other side until you reach the end. At the end, we have remaining 3 chains. We're going to skip the next 2 chain and double crochet in the very last chain. Next, we're going to chain 3 and turn our work. So if you've guessed it already, the pattern for this part will be the same as the previous row. So we're just going to work an iris stitch in each chain 1 space, except for the side or the double crochet on both of the shoulders at the armpit. At the very end, you will also work a double crochet in the 3rd chain of the turning chain 3. And repeat this pattern until the panel will reach the neckline. So make sure that the panel will not go all the way to the shoulders. For my size, that will be 10 rows in total. Once you have your panel, don't cut the yarn. From here, we will start with the straps. So continue with a chain of 1. Chain 1 here does not count as a stitch, and turn your work. Now we're going to single crochet into each stitch. So insert the hook into the stitch, grab the yarn and pull up a loop, and yarn over and pull through all of the loops. You will single crochet until you reach the end. Next, we're going to determine where we will place our straps. So starting with the last stitch here, I'm going to mark it with a stitch marker. And I'm also going to mark the 2nd iris stitch from the armpit. So that will be this one. Now we're going to place our middle strap in between those 2 stitch markers. So the placement of this will be completely up to you. Next, remove the stitch marker and make a chain of 50. If you prefer a longer strap, please feel free to add as many chains as you like. Single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and single crochet into each chain. At the end, we're going to skip the next stitch and single crochet into the next. Continue with a single crochet until you reach the next stitch marker. Coming down here at the stitch marker, I'm going to remove that and single crochet into that stitch. Next, repeat the same number of chain as we did for the straps. For mine, that will be 50. Again, single crochet in the second chain from the hook and each chain. And once you reach the end of the chain, we will skip the next stitch and single crochet into the next. Repeat this until you reach the last stitch marker. When you finish making all of the strap for the other side, we will also do the same for the other sleeve as well. And as you can see here, I've also marked my other sleeve as well. Continue working the straps all the way until we reach the end. Next, repeat everything from the very beginning to make the second panel, and once you have both of your panels, we're going to connect the sides and the corners. To connect, we're going to attach the yarn into both panels at the edge in the lower corner of our work, and once the yarn is attached, make 2 single crochet into the chain space. Next, single crochet into the side stitch. And again, 2 single crochet into the chain space. Repeat this until the end of the sleeve and do the same thing for the opposite side as well. Weave in all of the ends and enjoy your lovely handmade summer crochet top.